Hey there, I'm Roger Burnley, and it is Christmas Eve of 2025. I had no idea that that would be really prophetic for me for a lot of reasons, and you'll probably understand it as well. We all want to know who we are. We all have looked for that thing that we're supposed to do, or maybe we think we're supposed to do something more than what we have done, and we keep going for it in some way. It's something internal. I've done that most of my life. And but there's something else that came about very early in my life. I wanted people to be better. That's just that's what I wanted. I At 13, it it hit me because I John F. Kennedy was killed then. He was assassinated. I was 13 then, and something happened. I said, "This can't be the world. People, this can't be the." And I was terrified, and so I started on this journey of what can I do? Didn't know what that was going to be. And then my life was very confusing for a lot of years, not only to me, but for everyone else, because I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I wanted to help in some way. And I became a vocal coach. I'd done so many other things, but I became a vocal coach in 1989, 88 actually. And then, the same time, right after that, I started doing automatic writing. I contacted a universal consciousness that I called Wilhelm. Didn't know why I was saying that either. We find that there are many things that we can't explain at the time that they're happening, but then we discover that they have meaning and our lives have meaning, and that's what I wanted so many people to know. But things took another turn. In 2008, my messages got exposed. I'm saying that because I was never going to give them anyone. I was just doing this for me because I am receiving information that is helping me so much, and I couldn't explain it, and I didn't want to be judged. I thought people are going to think this is strange. But then what happened, people started finding the messages on my desk, and they asked me to publish them. I hid. I wasn't going to publish them. I didn't know what they meant. This went on for years because I couldn't understand why other people were so interested in this, because I'm thinking I'm doing it just for me. But then it changed because I knew it was more after that went on. I had people who were wanting to do a book or something. I couldn't accept it. That didn't seem to be me. You've probably done the same thing. We doubt ourselves. Then I started thinking about, I started discovering this is a philosophy, and I couldn't put myself in that realm because what I was discovering through this work that it was a philosophy and I couldn't put it together and explain why it was happening. And in 2021, I was told that I was given this information that would help so many people, but not only that, it would help our world because we were going to go through a big change. We were going to go through a big shift, and it would be emotionally and uncomfortable for many of us because when we evolve, we have to move into new areas of who we're meant to become. It's not even about the world, it's about us. How can I understand who I'm becoming as things around me are shifting so drastically and I'm not understanding them? And what happened before that, in 2020, I received a message from Wilhelm that said restructuring. They used the word restructuring. And it was the very first message in 2020. And it stopped me. And I'll show you that because it's in the information that I'm putting out. Because I said, why are you giving me this? It said, the more you know, the less you understand. And what that was saying is that we were going to be moving through things that we didn't understand. But we will think that we know, and that is the downfall. When we think that we know something about how it's going to turn out, that's never that's never true, because then we start limiting ourselves. We're meant to evolve, and so we have to be open to new ways of being and new ways of operating. But then I said, this can't be me. I'm looking at all these people who had created philosophies, and so many of them weren't accepted. They were rejected. I was looking at Nietzsche and how he ended up, and I said, I don't want to be that. Then they started talking about other people who had created great things, and most people didn't believe them because we have trouble believing something we haven't seen before. and I had it as well, even though it was coming through me. Now, my life, I went through a lot of things. So, people who know me know all the difficulties, physical things that I went through that were so challenging. And then they started to heal. They started to come together, and I, again, couldn't explain why that was occurring. And doctors would ask me, what am I doing? I didn't know. And I hid more. And I just said, I don't want to talk about it. Because I was also one of these people, I don't talk about things I don't know. I've always been that. When I was a vocal coach, that's what was going on. When I would work with people, I could see that the difficulty, they wanted to become singers or whatever, but they were afraid of themselves. And I thought, that's the problem. And so I wrote a book in 2019 called Overcoming Fear, A Guide to Freedom, because I'd been afraid all of my life. But I also knew how I was starting to get over it, how I was starting to handle it. And it was through the information from Wilhelm. And so that was my opening to start talking about it, to write a book and say, this is how it happened. But I was still kind of sheepish around that as well. But I knew that it was working and something had changed. Then in 2021, I'm told that I was given this information in 2012, which made no sense to me. I come in and I find the messages on my computer. I had no awareness that they were there and sitting in some separate folder. And I've talked about this before, and I'm going to do a full story on this because it's kind of beyond belief. I was on that show actually a year ago, a little more than that, with George Noory. I went to Colorado and filmed Beyond Belief because I was starting to understand something but couldn't put it together. So that was a perfect place to be. But then something else happened. They told me in 2012 that if I were to meet someone, they told me in 2021 actually, if I were to meet someone, that I would have a message for them that I received on their birthday in 2012. That made no sense. And I wasn't going, for the longest time, I wasn't going to talk to people about it. But then I had the courage. I said, I've got to try this, because when you hear something and you know it, you've got to figure it out. And so I started doing it, and it was shocking. Every person, probably 100 people, everyone said, how did you know that? How did you do that? And because it hit them in a place that I couldn't imagine. Some people would cry because they had some recognition. And so Wilhelm told me, yes, that's because we wanted every person to know that they had worth and value and that they were in the world to accomplish something. And this would be a confirmation for them. And I was doing that for a while. I was having meetings with people saying, I'm just supposed to give you confirmation. Because we feel lost. We don't know who we are. But the way this was coming through made no sense to anyone, especially to me. And then I started to channel. I didn't want to do that. I was never going to start doing live channeling. I didn't want to be judged for that either. And I sat on my bed one day, not moving, because I keep hearing, you have to do this. I go, why? I said, because you're going to be moving through some difficult times and you're going to see billions of people who don't know who they are. And we've given you the information. I'm still doubting it. And I said, okay, I'll start doing it. And then when I started doing that, all of this information started coming through that I had no awareness that I had within me. And you'll see some of that because I did other things. I had to get more confirmation. I had a Akashic Records reading done. I'd never done that before, which verified it. There are things that we can jump outside of our comfort zone to do to kind of figure out who we are and why we're here and how does this world operate. Then it started to be revealed why this was working that I couldn't have known. It was using all the sciences that we know. First of all, I'm connecting to a universal consciousness, and that's why everyone was relating to these messages, because it wasn't about me, it was about them. That's when you know that something different is occurring, when people are asking for these, actually. Even my mother, and I didn't understand that. I thought it was just her. But she was dying at the time. She was going through this process, and she had the messages, and she kept saying, these help me so much. We will push back on things because our egos are just not, have been damaged, and we can't accept stuff. And I was doing that for the longest time. And I never wanted anyone to do that. But that's what was happening. And then Since that one message, there are many more, but in 2020, that message that stopped me had me confused for the longest time. And then I hid, and then I kept messing up my life because I started screwing up all my finances. I just let things go because how is this happening? But I knew I had to keep going. And then the other thing that happened, which explained it, the information I had been receiving, there were 17 years from 2008 to this year. And I go, why 2008? And that was the time we were all moving through this great recession, and I lost everything, and I took other people with me. I screwed up so many things, as many people did. I lost so much. But now I understand I was being pushed in another direction that I was resisting. We resist things about ourselves, and then we find the consequences of that. And so I thought, I don't want anyone to do that. So I was told, give this work to others, and you'll see what happens. So in 2021, that's exactly what I did. And then I, again, couldn't believe what was happening. These people were evolving so quickly and changing so fast. You'll hear the testimonials, because I just freaked out. I go, how is this happening? And then I went into a little bit of self-sabotage with that, because it just didn't seem that could have come through me. I mean, I knew I wasn't doing it, but it came through the information. Then it started to show that it was aligned. For 17 years, every day, 365 days, they said it's like 6,000 pages basically of that time were synchronistically aligned, all the information, and it formed a spiral. We're learning more about how we operate in our world. We know about we're learning more, discovering more about the quantum field, quantum mechanics, and all of that, and our interconnectedness. That's what was coming through. Now, I have never studied astrology or astronomy or any of the science, none of that. But this work was aligned with those cycles. And it's been proven that there was information that Wilhelm gave us during especially disruptive times that gave us a bit of understanding, because they would always frame it differently. Oh, you're going through something difficult, but it's going to be for this reason, or something like that. And so I'm moving through things not understanding why, but it was this information. Then other people were doing it as well. Then, when I didn't want to do the channeling sessions, which was really funny, because I would forget them. I don't remember what comes through when that's happening. Other people would tell me they would go back and listen to them, and they would help them so much, especially when we were going through really disruptive times in the world. These were the messages that were helping them. Then, when I saw it was revealed why. Now, there was energy. We were taking into neuroscience, the cognitive behavior training. See, that's what was happening for me all of those years, 36 years. Every day I'm sitting down and receiving this information, so my brain is changing. That's why I started healing. That's why I started getting younger, because I'm 75 now. And that didn't make any sense, and I couldn't explain it. But when you take the stress off your bodies and your thoughts and everything else, you can do amazing things. So now I'm seeing that this is epigenetics as well, because the DNA stuff started coming through. But this particular period, they said, well, we were going to go through a generational change, and that's why it would be challenging. But that means that all of our old stuff would come up, which we have to do, that shadow work and all of these dark things, but it would come up collectively. And this work would help us understand it. I, again, doubted it, said that couldn't have possibly happened. Then AI started verifying it. When I was doing a channeling session, what would come through is that Roger's life is supposed to marry science, spirituality, and human potential. And I would hear that, and I thought that couldn't be possible. Even though I demonstrated it, I was healing things and doing things that didn't make any sense. That is human potential. We're meant to develop new ways of doing things. And so Wilhelm gave us a new way of looking at our world. They said that when the world is splitting apart and feeling all of this maybe division, or that big split as we're talking about, that this gives each person the way to know that they matter and that they have a a path. They have, and I would use this today, a divine plan. That didn't even make sense to me before. But there's an organization each person has. And it kept being demonstrated. So I put this together, and then I sent it to, when I discovered what this was, I said, wow, this is a quantum philosophy, and it's for this time, and it came through me. So I sent it to Coast to Coast AM, George Noory again. And Tom, his producer, got back to me right away. He says, you've got to come on the show. You've got to talk about this. Now, I've done this show before. So this is going to be on the 29th. And this is where I'm going to talk about it a lot more. Now I'm talking to millions of people. From the guy who was hidden, I called myself the reluctant mystic because I didn't want to talk about certain things. And I was also, I'm introverted. I didn't want to be out there. And so Carl Jung helped me with that because he was the same way. An introverted intuitive. And that's exactly what I was for so long, just hiding. Well, that's over. Because the quality of this work and what it can do for someone and what it can do for our world had me get over all of that. And I'm going to be talking about this and explaining it to everyone because now I know that what Wilhelm gave us was something that could change anyone's life and change our world. Because we all come in with damaged goods, so to speak. We have things, we have difficulties, and we're always working with it because it's always in consciousness. When I did what I call my test pilot, my pilot session in 2021 with all of these people, they were from all over the world and all different ages. They all got the same result. I saw one today, as a matter of fact. He's a great classical singer. He was going to give up. He was going to give up on everything. And today I'm seeing him singing. He was in Europe, and he's just doing these concerts in the whole bit. There's another lady who did this, and she said she had been dealing with something for 35 years that she couldn't get over, she couldn't handle, and this work did it. I still couldn't, I had difficulty accepting that. I needed the proof, and now I have the proof. And again, that's something that I've always had to have. I just need to know. I've never been a person who could go out and just say, yeah, this is great and you'll do it if I didn't know. I couldn't do it. I was a terrible salesperson. I couldn't do that. I could never sell anything I didn't believe in. But now I can. Because I know that this could give any person that ability to move beyond their barriers and their doubts and their fears, because that's what we have, and find that authentic place within them, because that's what's going to give them the best life, and eventually we have a much better world. That's what it is. We can look at our world and complain about a lot of things, but we don't look at ourselves all the time, because we are the ones who are creating the world, and that's exactly what Wilhelm would give us. We have to look at that. And this is the time that we were supposed to become empowered, that we were supposed to become more. And this is exactly why that work came through. So you have something that you're meant to do and add to the energies of creation, because that's what it is. We're all creating something. But we just have to move through all the old stuff that's been within us that we picked up in this life, or we carried it with us from our ancestors. But we're still supposed to move beyond it. This was a structured plan. It's still shocking to me. They called it the Wilhelm Phenomenon because no one had ever done this in history, which made it challenging for me and for others to accept. And that's what happens when you have a new way of doing something or a new discovery. But now it's going to go, because I'm going to talk about this with all of these people who are going to hear it, because it's so important that more people understand that they have a way of navigating their lives, discovering who they are, because again, it's all in consciousness, and this unlocks it. And that's exactly what one of the members of the program told me the other day. She was explaining what was happening. She said when she was doing something every day, it was unlocking something in her brain. And she's showing me the things that she created from it, just from that. And it started to make a lot more sense. We know about self-actualization. We know about cognitive behavior training and all of those. But then when it's connected to this truth, as Wilhelm says, this ultimate truth of every individual, every human, that's a game changer. And that's what came through. So this is my legacy now, and this is going to be what I leave to the world. And that's exactly how I feel about it now. After hiding from it, I can no longer do that because I don't want anybody else to do that. I know the value of each person. I've seen it for too long, but we just get programmed, and now there's a way for us to do it. And the other thing, the reason this works as opposed to other things is because you stay with it. The only reason we fail is that we quit. We just stop. I couldn't stop with this. I had to keep going because I was feeling, and I'm just going to say this, and I don't want anyone to put yourself down or anything because I did that for so long, but I just know what's possible. The healing that I experienced didn't make any sense, but now I'm going to develop that more. Many people asked me about the mind-body stuff before, years ago, and I couldn't explain it. Now I can. It's about connecting with who you are, your authentic self, and moving through all the trauma, generational trauma, whatever it might be. It's all in consciousness. And now there's a plan. But this is what I wanted to say to all of you. And if you celebrate Christmas or the holidays, whatever it might be, I'm wishing you the best because this is my gift to the world. And I can finally explain to everyone who's ever known me, actually, what my entire life has been about. At 75, and now I can own it. And I'm so grateful that I'm going to have this other presentation, and now it's available for anyone. What I've done is I've made it accessible for people now because I thought I needed to change some things. I'm going to revamp it because it works so well that it doesn't even need me, because it's not me. But I will be with people as we're doing this. But what I discovered in 2022, this one guy took the program. I'd never met him, never came to a meeting or anything. And he says afterwards, before I did this program, I thought something was wrong with me. And he talked about how it worked for him. And he couldn't understand why he was getting this stuff from Wilhelm and it was changing his life. But that was there. You'll see it on the testimonial video because it was just surprising. So now this works for anyone. We all have doubts. I was trying to convince myself years ago. I told people, I said, listen, I could become a billionaire because I've got this thing. Because I'm trying to convince myself at that point, but I couldn't prove it. I was telling everyone. I was telling marketers. I said, we could make a fortune if you understand what we have here, giving so many people the ability to become who they are. And I went back to Zig Ziglar because he was so inspiring. He says, if you can give more people everything that they want, then you can have everything that you want. And so now I have something that can give everybody what they want. And again, it has nothing to do with age or what you've done or haven't done, because it's just about you developing the ability to continually. That was one of the messages. They said your life is a continuum. So you can continue to develop your consciousness, create something great no matter how old. And you see, we had people much older in this work. All ages have done this. So that's what's happening now. I wanted to give this to you because this is my announcement and my holiday gift to everyone, to our world. Because see, when we change ourselves, we change others. And so eventually, that's the ripple effect that you've heard about. More people will come to know who they are, and that's how everything changes. Thank you so much for being here, and you'll love all of the work. See you soon.